Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing really good. In today's one, I am going to be doing a huge meal prep video. I'm going to show you some meal ideas, breakfast, lunch, dinner for like during the week, super cheap on a budget, and yeah, I wanted to get straight into it. So the first meal is going to be overnight oats, and of course you need some porridge oats. I'll pop the prices and everything on the screen, as well as some containers. Obviously you could use jars or tins, whatever is easiest for you, and depending if you're on the go and everything, but these were just $1.99 from Aldi. Then you're going to need some unsweetened almond milk or any milk of preference. I just quite like this one. Next, we've got the protein. You don't have to use this, but I quite like high protein breakfast, so I am using cinnamon Danish whey protein. Then these are toppings that obviously you can mix up. I just like cashew nuts, chia seeds, and some chopped apple. I track all my foods as well, so that is where I've got the scales. I would recommend you doing the same if you are prepping your meals, just so you know exactly what you're consuming and making, and you can make an even mix. So I'm using 40 grams of oats, and I'm just doing it in each container. Obviously you could do it in like a bulk bowl or whatever, but I just find this the most easiest. Then I am pouring 700 millilitres of almond milk into this pouring container. Basically it's usually like a 2:1 kind of ratio, so that would work out 500 millilitres of milk, but obviously I'm adding the protein powder, and I quite like my oat consistency to be on like a bit more of like the watery kind of side, but not too watery, don't get me wrong. So it works out about 140 millilitres of milk in each oats, and then obviously I'll be adding the protein, but obviously if you're not adding protein it'd just be about 500 millilitres, but 700 with the protein. So that's 1 scoop of whey protein, and that is 75 grams of the protein powder, which is like 15 grams of protein in each portion size, which is a really good protein meal. So yeah, and also I'm doing 5 portions of the oats. I was quite limited for plastic containers when I was prepping this. This has got to be the most satisfying bit, just swirling it all around. Then I'm just pouring 140 millilitres of the milk into each oat portion. It comes out so quick when you're weighing it on the scales, like, oh, I messed this up a few times, but we got there eventually. Then next I'm going in with the toppings. I am popping in about a teaspoon of chia seeds on each portion. It works out like 2 grams. This is just like optional. I absolutely love these little seeds. I personally don't add like my nuts and chopped apple until I'm actually eating it, just because it goes really soggy, you know, if you're leaving it in the fridge for a few days, and I just prefer it fresh. So here is the My Protein vanilla flavour drops. They're 0 sugar. They've basically got nothing in them just other than a few sweeteners, and I put a tiny little drop in each. This makes such a big difference, like tastes absolutely amazing. But yeah, don't go too crazy because it is really strong. And then I just mix them all together and pop them in the fridge. Remember as well, you can add so many different little toppings, like you could add pumpkin seeds, cacao nibs, like cacao powder, just whatever you fancy really, and it does make a massive difference and really does add to the taste and stuff. Then I'm just popping the lids on all of these. Like I say, you can pop them in the fridge or freezer, you can microwave them, have them warm, have them cold. I personally really like them cold actually. And then I just thought I'd show you, here I am chopping up my apple. This is one of my favourite toppings. Apple's one of my favourite fruit as well. But yeah, just chopping it into like fine bits and putting like about half an apple on each portion size. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you this, but like I say, you can put like berries on there, whatever you fancy. And then I'm just topping it with some ground cinnamon. Again, this makes all the difference. Like, it is the little things that don't have like, they're not high calorie or anything, that make all the difference. Also makes it look a bit nicer presentation wise too. And then I'm topping it with some cashew nuts. I don't use that many of these, but yeah, I use about 4 grams. So I'll put the macros on the screen, like including my toppings. Is one of my absolute favourites, which is a breakfast McMuffin, and that includes turkey rashers and eggs, like egg whites and a few eggs. This absolutely like tastes pretty much exactly the same as the McDonald's one, but obviously it's not with bacon or cheese, but tastes absolutely unreal. The macros are amazing and is one of my go-to breakfast or lunch at the moment. So you've got to try this recipe for sure. These are seriously like my absolute favourites at the moment. Get some tin foil and just pop that in like an oven tray and just put out the turkey rashers. There were actually 7 in this. Look at me counting. There were actually 7 rashers and it's supposed to be 6, so I got like a free one in there. That's never happened before. Must be my lucky day. So yeah, just pop them on there and make sure the oven's on. Pop them in the oven for about like 10-15 minutes. Just keep sort of keeping an eye on them and having a look. Then you're going to need 8 eggs. So I'm using 4 full eggs and then 4 whites of the eggs. It would be better to just actually buy some egg whites, but yeah, we're rolling with it. So again, using the container and just cracking them on in there. So it works out about like in each portion 1 egg and 1 white, and then just mixing that all around. This is the best little hack I found actually. It tastes so good. They're like little egg hash browns. Then I'm using some Vita Coco coconut oil, or you could use like butter or whatever like fat you use, but I use this one. Just using a really small amount, about 2 grams, and lining the tray. Make sure you do this as well, because otherwise it just completely ruins the egg and you can't get the egg off. I tried that to start with, but I guess you could also use like baking paper or again like tin foil on the bottom. And of course I've already put the turkey rashers in the oven, so I do this last. You've really got to keep your eye on this because it can go 0 to 100 in absolutely no time at all, and you can end up either frazzling the egg or just undercookering it. So yeah, cooking it. So here we go, putting that in the oven. I put it on like the bottom layer in the oven, if that's what we're going with. Then whilst we're waiting for the turkey rashers and egg, I'm going in with the McMuffins. I keep calling them McMuffins, sorry. The egg muffins, we're not talking about McDonald's. And this is an unusual one, but yeah, just cutting them in half. Then I'm using the lighter than light mayo. This he's literally again got nothing in but tastes so good, like super low calorie, because that's where you can go wrong quite often, like with sauces. If you are tracking your macros or you're cutting, trying to lose body fat, it can be so easy to bump your calories up with like tomato sauce and stuff. So yeah, this is really good, and I'm using 3 grams of lighter than light mayo on each side, so I'm using this rather than butter. Then I'm popping them on a frying pan. I don't actually have any like fat or anything on the frying pan. I'm just popping them like face side with the mayo on and just kind of toasting them on here, making sure they go to like a crispy brown. I sometimes do burn them doing this though, I must admit, but yeah, just it doesn't take long at all. I quite like my bread like not super toasted, but that's just personal preference, I guess. And yeah, just flipping them over, and obviously there's 8 of them, so yeah, just like take it in turns and yeah, wait until they're lovely and crispy brown. So that is those done, and so is the eggs. So I've just pulled that out. That is like the perfect way how I wanted to do my eggs. So that is, oh my god, how insane does that look? Oh, mouth's watering on the screen. And then next up, obviously, I'm just like proportioning everything. I'm using some baking paper to wrap the muffins. This just keeps, you know, like them not going soggy or whatever in the in the plastic container. If you are putting it in the fridge or whatever, but you could just use whatever you've got in. I like to just make do. And then I'm just preparing each bun. This is the most satisfying bit. I'm putting about 1 and like a bit of, because we had like some extra rations. And again, I'll pop the macros on the screen. But you'll be really surprised, like when you eat this, honestly, it tastes absolutely amazing. Eating well and healthy like does not have to be restrictive or like just tasting like crap, like eating salad. It really doesn't. And these little recipes are so good and tasty. I promise. I did want to do these in like a circle motion, but I'm just going for the square and like cutting it in half. But yeah, just going down straight down the middle, and obviously it's like 4 portions. But you could easily make more of this if you wanted to do like a full 7 days. But yeah, I like to just do like 4 or 5 days of meal prep, as I just find the food a bit fresher. But yeah, that's just personal preference. That's a big slab. It looks like the most delicious omelette you've ever seen. And yeah, just popping it in half and folding it over so we can actually like shut the muffin tight. Look at that. Wow, that is literally identical to an egg McMuffin from McDonald's. But yeah, and then I'm just wrapping it in the baking the baking paper, for God's sake. And I didn't have anything to like tighten it with, so you just kind of press it into the container and then pop the lid on, and you're good to go. So next up is going to be a chicken dish. You're going to need the coconut oil, some chicken breast, it can be chopped or diced, whatever, and some paprika, as well as some curry powder or whatever seasonings you like, and just some sweet potatoes, and lastly some green beans. This is the quickest and easiest evening meal, or like for lunch even. So I'm just starting off with chopping some sweet potatoes. Again, you could chop these in like circles. I just like to do them as like kind of like big fat fries, I want to say. So I season my sweet potatoes by literally just using some seasoning. I like putting some paprika, it really adds a little kick to them, and just sprinkling a little bit on top, not much. You could put oil, but I personally don't think they really need it. And yeah, and making sure your oven's on a high heat before putting them in the oven. This generally takes, like, depends on like your oven as well, but about between 30 and 40 minutes, I'd say. But again, you just see, have a look. Some people prefer them crispier than others. I don't really mind mine. I like mine quite soft. And then you're going to want to boil the kettle and put some hot water into a pan. This is for your green veggies. I think just pile in as many veggies as you can. This is super quick, but I think we all could definitely do with like more greens in our diet. I know I'm guilty for this. So yeah, I'm just putting a full portion of the green beans in. These are really delicious as well. I really, really like these. And I'm just cooking them for about between 7 and 10 minutes. And I always like to put the little steam lid on top. I think that just keeps things in. I've always been taught to do that as well. Like when I was growing up, I remember always have like a lid on stuff. And then we're going back to the frying pan and we are getting some Vita cocoa. And I'm using about a teaspoon of Vita coconut oil. This is to cook the chicken in. You definitely need to have like some fat, I hate to call it that, some sort of like grease, whether it's like a sunflower oil or like olive oil, that would do the job. And then I'm just putting in the full portion of chicken. Make sure you've got quite a big pan for this, because the amount of times when I've tried using a smaller one and it just doesn't fit in and ends up falling out and like spitting all over your clothes. And I'm going in with the curry powder. I use like a hot curry powder, but it is actually really mild, and just sprinkling that over the chicken. I absolutely love anything like curry sauced. I just think it tastes unreal. And then I'm also using paprika. These are just like my go-to seasonings. And that is the chicken cooked. I've portioned that into each container, and I've put 120 grams of chicken in each container. Again, this is just like personal preference to whatever fits your macros. And then I'm also weighing out the green beans, and I'm putting in 49 grams of green beans in each one. This is quite a big, I like this portion size, it always fills me up. So the sweet potatoes are done, and I'm getting ready to, and in each portion size I am popping in 120 grams of sweet potato in each one. I absolutely love sweet potato, it's full of vitamins and so healthy and nutritious. That is left over. Obviously you could just use that throughout the week or like add more to it, just depending on like what you're eating and everything. So here is my finished meal prep. I really hope you enjoyed this video. These are honestly some of my favourite meals. They're so quick and easy. It doesn't have to be complicated. I absolutely love the overnight oats. They're so tasty and you can add so much into them. You know, eating clean, eating well doesn't have to be restrictive. You can have really delicious food, and I think that's the most important thing to make anything sustainable and like a healthy lifestyle, an enjoyable diet. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I would love you guys to stick around, and I will see you guys in the next video.